Welcome back to the Truth of Grief podcast. We've got a new episode today. We're going to touch up on some stuff that we haven't on the previous episodes. So you have the pleasure of me hosting and hopefully asking Russell a few more questions. Where should we start?
I think we should start with a big thank you to everyone who's watched on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, Amazon, everywhere the show is, because we've received great comments, great feedback, and I know it's made me feel good because there's already comments of how this is already helping people, or how they can see this can help people. So so massive thank you to everyone who has sent a message to us, whether it's for our comments or direct message. It's been really nice to read everyone's comments to us. So yeah, massive thank you to you all. We went through all the emotions of the journey, and we spoke about what your dealings with grief were at that time. And I know we've spoken off camera what you're doing to deal with grief now. So there's probably some takeaway there for other people, because I know you've changed what you're doing to deal with grief to say 2 years ago. So how are you managing the grief that you still experience today?
Oh, it's a slow process. Like I said in the last episode, it's taken me a few years to get to a even still not so comfortable position of talking about it. But I definitely think that talking about it more and doing these kind of these discussions, and I'm trying to have a positive outlook on such a horrible situation will only help others, and that's where we're hoping that, you know, if we can get some guests who are willing to and want to share their stories and open up, that might help them.
So you think talking about it is helping? Because you hear all the time people say you have to talk, and it's really difficult to talk. So your experience with now doing the pod and open up a bit more, would you say that has been a significant turning point towards helping you manage the grief more?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it before. I've joined a men's circle therapy group, and in that group it's all about venting. So whatever's happened on the day, that week, and previously, you would vent to the other guys in the group. No judgments. It can be as simple as I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, my missus is pissing me off, or it could be I'm having a really shit time and I need someone to sort of give me some motivation to wake up tomorrow. There's, it really flips depending on the person. And not to say it's all negative. Sometimes there's guys in there who turn around and say, I'm having a fantastic week. I've managed to get out and run a couple of 5Ks. I'm reading more books than I've ever read before. I'm in a really positive space. And sometimes actually someone sharing that they've had a positive week can either send you to think, oh, I want to have a positive week, or it could kind of motivate you to do that, or it could actually be like, well, I'm having a shit week, so that's making me feel even worse. But, if you express the fact that you're having a bit of a bad one, you've got these guys putting their arms around you and saying, not, it's going to be all right. They're saying, like, well done for, like, expressing that. And there's no shame. More of a healing. So it'd be more of an encouragement from trying to make you see and be more grateful, I suppose, for what you might have as opposed to what you don't have.
And are these guys who have gone through grief themselves?
Yeah, so I've only been going to that particular group for about 5 or 6 weeks. And it's not like I kind of know people's stories. That doesn't get shared every week. You know, it's probably taken 4 weeks for these guys to kind of find out about me. And if anything, the moment that the first episode was dropped, you know, I was quite reserved. I kind of wanted, especially in that first meeting, I wanted to just listen. You know, I sort of thanked everyone for having me, and I wanted to listen to what happened, what the guys were talking about. And then from each week that I've gone, I've not necessarily got a bit more confidence, but also learning what the different guys are sharing. I know that I can. I know that I can sort of share the same sort of stuff, and then yeah, like I said, that first episode dropped, and probably most, if not all of them, kind of realised, oh, okay, that's why he's here.
Yeah.
So I still don't know what some of the guys are there for, and I'm not going to directly ask. I can kind of guess.
How did you find the men's group? How did that come across?
Yeah, so a friend I used to work with years ago had a loss, and I think either I reached out to him or he might have reached out to me, understanding probably our situations, just to reach out and make sure one another was okay, and that kind of led to him. He was already going to this group therapy, and he invited me along, and each week I've been going, I'm growing a stronger connection with the guys that are there. I'm getting to know them, they're getting to know me, and they kind of do like retreats and things like that to obviously better connect with each other, I suppose. And yeah, it's kind of it's that subject of, it's all men, you know, men don't talk, and this is an opportunity for, like I said, judgment-free conversation, vent, and it's really powerful. It's really powerful.
Would you say that circle of men that you now go to, is that helping you get back to as normal life as possible you could have after going through what you've gone through? Do you feel that's pushing you in the right direction now then? And just through you talking at that group, like I say, not necessarily sharing everything, but maybe just being surrounded by people who understand.
Yeah, so the previous episodes, people have already spoken to me and said, like, wow, I didn't realise, especially with COVID, how tough that was. And as I get to know the guys in this group, they might have been in similar situations as that. And I've still got a lot of connections to make within there. And in terms of getting to as normal life as possible, similar to what Lauren had spoken about, it's never going to be normal, but it's definitely going in the right direction. And that's all through the power of talking and connection.
So you've mentioned that you've got 2 boys now, and what's he now? 2.5 and 3 months.
Yeah.
With life now, with you talking open about it and I guess tackling the grief head on, how is your relationship with your boys now after having a loss, with the progress you're making with grief? Do you still feel like there's an impact there? Do you still think there's always going to be something lingering over it, maybe?
Yeah, I think obviously you've got boys the same age, so when Nelly used to maybe wander around the house when she was leaning up against tables and crawling, I was a lot more carefree for whatever reason, being the dad. And I find myself very protective of, particularly at the moment, Lenny, who's a bit older and he's walking around. And I really don't believe that I would be like that and the way I know I am if we hadn't have lost Nelly. I'm almost like sixth sense. He's jumping on the bed and I already can see him falling off, smashing his face on the corner of the bedside table. And I know that a lot of people listening will be like, oh, that's just a normal parent's reaction, or like a normal parent's instinct. But I know I wouldn't be like that. We're out down the park and I'm almost foreseeing always the problems.
Yeah.
I don't know why, and I really do think it's got that to play on. I don't think it's just a parent's instinct. I really do think that whole grief and losing a child, I'm really seeing that. I'm almost always like that, always on edge. I never was like that before. But
Yeah.
that's something. And I don't know what you've got kids the same age, so do you find you're like that?
Yeah, I definitely I do. But it's a weird thing because I've my perspective on this podcast is that I haven't experienced grief, and my wife always said, I've had a boring life when it comes to that because she hasn't, and she's always jealous of that. But I can't relate to the grief in the same way there's people that have gone through it. But the thing I've found is with being close to you and with us talking about the situation a lot more, I found myself thinking about things in a different way to them maybe I probably wouldn't have before, like you said as well. Even though
this is how it's affected you. So I want to hear it, and maybe the audience want to hear how, from a friend, a very close friend, I've had people reach out to me and say how amazing it is, how vulnerable you have come across on the podcast. Not just, I know I've been doing predominantly the talking because of the story, but people have reached out and they've actually admired the fact that you have been honest in saying that you didn't know how to speak to me and you didn't want to say the wrong thing. So let's flip it, and this is a good opportunity to please share how my grief and obviously your wife's, how has that affected you?
Well, I think it's not. I think I'm just a lot more open to potential things to go wrong. One of the things that you mentioned to me when you was going through the journey with Nelly back then was one of the things you noticed was the bowels weren't right. And my son, when he was young, about 6 months old, we didn't know this at the time. He had a dairy allergy, but we didn't know he had a dairy allergy. My wife, his breastfed baby, my wife was consuming dairy, but then his bowels went wrong and there was blood in the poop. And even then, my brain just instantly went, because you shared at the time something similar, and I just kind of went, not like this is.
So would you?
I instantly went to the worst thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, maybe majority of people would just go, we just got to go to doctors, he'll be fine. We just give him some medicine or whatever it might be and he'll be fine in the morning. But
so had that not been shared by me, by anyone else, would you have thought that way?
Probably not, no. Because also my approach to things is kind of how yours was, which is you said, I think it'll be all right. It'll fine. It'll be work out. And it's very much the case for me prior to being a parent as well. I think parent changes you a little bit, but we probably would have still gone down the same road because it's not. I mean, it's not my story to tell, but my wife's gone through grief, and so her reactions very much we instantly need to go and sort this out, which is, I get it, I really get it, but having a close friend go through that definitely has changed my thought process on everything, really, not just on the kids, even just on my own health. Like I literally, I had a little lump come up on my side, and I'm like, oh, what's, I don't know, maybe become a bit more aware or anxious about certain things that I know historically, back when I was in my early 20s as a young man, and he's flat, that's fine, it'll fix itself, it's not gonna, it's just the way it was. But
well, that word aware, let's say awareness, just to make it a bit more better, that word awareness is another reason for this podcast. I don't feel like we're trying to scaremonger.
No.
If we're talking about symptoms and things like that, because that's not what we're about. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make people aware, and hopefully, let's look at that as a bit more of a positive. The fact that because you were made aware of the upset bowels, it then made you think of it could be this, or let's go and get it checked out. You got it checked out. You found out it was a dietary issue, and now you found out something that you can provide a solution to, rather than ignored it and it got worse, or so awareness is something that we want to aim to do throughout this series.
No, that's very true. That's very true, because it ultimately got us to the point where I found out he did have a dairy allergy. It's much to my wife's dismay of not being able to eat chocolate for the whole length of time of breastfeeding. But I didn't think about it from that perspective.
So
but
could we make an episode out of not being able to eat chocolate? Because that's a lot of grief in there. I've got to bring some light heart into this.
It's not just chocolate. Cheese. Couldn't have cheese for 12 months.
Right, this is an episode on its own, I think.
Okay.
Got to throw a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Make it a bit light-hearted. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what order this is going out in, but your other half's done an episode, and we do talk about on there just throwing some dark humour into it to help you get through. I think you said as well on previous episodes, it's one of the coping mechanisms, but ultimately that kind of still leads to talking, right?
Yeah. No, definitely.
So it wasn't where I thought we was going with this episode, but fair enough.
Okay, we can flip it back.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's just I don't know. I feel a bit of a fraud, for talking about.
I hope these cameras are still rolling.
They are still rolling.
Okay, so why do you feel like a fraud?
Well, because obviously you're asking for my experience with it, and I don't have experience with grief. Touch wood.
Oh, I never wanted it.
No. No one wants grief. But I don't know. When I'm sitting here talking to you about this, it's hard to sit here and go, I haven't had any grief. But I need to. I guess one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to sit opposite you on this podcast is to understand how to communicate. That's probably the wrong word with you
I think
about
that's right. Yeah.
the grief, because I luckily I haven't had any grief, and I just feel so selfish saying that, and a bit of a fraud sitting here having this conversation with you. But ultimately, it's, I guess, the perspective for some of the listeners is, I haven't been through grief, but I've got a friend, a sister, a daughter, a father, whatever, whoever going through grief. So how do we deal with it? So I think that's.
So why don't we push on from there, which was exactly what you was describing. We touched on it in the intro, how to speak to someone who's going through grief. We touched on it with regards to just checking in with them. So is there anything that you would do differently, having listened to the last episodes? Is there any way that you would cope with it? Not cope with it, but deal with it differently towards someone who is experiencing grief?
I mean, 100%, I would do things differently.
That's amazing in itself. Do you not think? That's kind of already in a few
Yeah, but
episodes of us speaking, you already are like, I would do something different.
Yeah, I would do something different. And I think the thing I've taken from yourself and Lauren about the journey you went through is I definitely didn't talk to you enough. Even like, but then I said when we was talking with Lauren is, you know, in my head I was like, is he going to have 99 unread messages on WhatsApp? Do I want to be the number 100 onto that list and things like that? And the answer's yes, if the message is correct. And I think that's kind of what I've taken away from this is it's not I'm bothering you. It's more saying, look, I'm here, mate. Don't reach out if you don't want to, but just let you know that I'm thinking of you. And yeah, if you need anything from me, just pick up the phone. And I was kind of scared to do that to you. Scared might be the wrong word. I don't want this to come across wrong. I just didn't know how to deal with the situation. Whereas speaking with you now and even listening back to the episodes that we've now released to the point of the filming now is, yeah, I've taken a lot away from this, and hopefully other people have as well. Which is, yeah, don't ignore. Not ignore. Don't. Just make sure you reach out. Make sure you talk to them. Just don't pester them with like. You don't need to know details. I don't really know where to go with it. But ultimately, just to like I say, to put a. If you need something, mate. If you need a break. If you want to just go. I don't know. Go
grab a coffee.
Grab a coffee. Yeah. Don't even talk about the grief at play at that time. That's what I've taken from this. Is I kind of wish I did that now. And yeah.
And I'm not looking to. Definitely not making people feel bad. That's like not the idea of. I don't want you to think, oh, I should have done this differently. Oh, I wish I could go back in time and do it. Like, because I am not someone that necessarily needed everyone to message me going thinking of you. But there are people maybe like Lauren or there might be other people and listeners that do feel like that, and that kind of got them through it.
Yeah.
And I could be lying to myself. Like, if I think about it and sit here right now, what I might have just said was a complete lie. When I think about it, where am I a fraud by saying like, oh no, I'm not hard, I'm not rock, like, I don't need people to sort of like reach out to me, because I'd be lying if I said like the people reaching out to me, it was nice that they were thinking about me, but at no point did I think that the people that aren't reaching out aren't thinking about me. So it's a hard topic. Obviously, that's why we're talking about it. But we've got to be honest. We've got to be raw. And yeah, that's the idea of it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, fingers crossed, I'd never have a friend, family, relative, or anyone I know go through it again. But yeah, speaking about it,
something that actually was brought to my attention the other day, which really got me thinking, was we're all going to experience more grief. How horrible is that to think of? Unfortunately, the order of the cycle of life. Let's just go with great grandparents, then parents. There is a cycle of life that we are all going to experience more grief at some point. So the earlier that we can learn more about it, cope with it, discuss it, and build that community, God forbid it's anytime soon, but that will hopefully help.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because I think, outside of yourself, like my biggest level of grief was my grandparents passing, but they reached an old age. It's grief, but it's not the same. It's not like it's expected. So yeah, now like if anyone, if one of my parents will go, that is inevitable. It's a grief that's going to happen. I think I'm fortunate to say is like I learned a lot from your grief, and I now know what I did. I feel like what I did was not the right thing, which was wait for you. Whereas now I know any time that inevitability will come up, that there is going to be someone going through something, regardless of whoever it is connected to them, whether it is a child like yourself or whether it is a parent or whatever it might be. I'll definitely will approach it a lot differently.
But don't you think with that level, like you said, losing a grandparent, it's not the same. Like it's meant, but to some people, their grandparents might have been like their parents. Like, and there are some people in the world who lose a pet, and it's worse than losing a fucking child or a parent. Like, there are people like that. So the level of grief, depending on, and we're talking specifically at the moment about losing someone, we haven't even touched on yet the aspects of grief of everyday life. Even from Nellie's story, not just losing Nellie, but we're grieving the life that she never had. She would have started reception this week. So there's a milestone there that, everyone around you and friends and family, lovely first day pictures and things. Well, we're going to experience that again every year, every milestone, every birthday. So we relive it all the time. So we're grieving the life that she didn't have, as well as we're grieving the life that we'd lost.
But then how would you want someone to acknowledge? Would you want someone to acknowledge those milestones?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. It can be, if people don't want to acknowledge it, and that's where I'm not a big advocate of social media, because the pressure of, let's just say you wish someone happy birthday because you see it pop up on the platform, and you didn't do it the year after, other people are, and you forget, oh shit, I didn't do that. And I don't do like birthday cards, Christmas cards for that reason, because I don't want to forget someone's birthday by not getting them a birthday card. Or it's really weird. Like, people might actually appreciate what I'm saying here, but especially when you get someone's birthday pops up and you especially Facebook, let's be serious, you feel like you've got to wish them happy birthday because everyone else is doing it. Will they recognize that you haven't done that? So that brings me back around to the fact that Nellie, for example, if her birthday comes up and your closest family might wish her happy birthday, and we might set off a balloon. I fear of like forgetting it or people not realizing it, and you've got to remind them, make them feel bad. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. There's a long way to answer that, but I don't have the perfect answer for you. I don't know.
It's obviously tough to have milestones go by when she's not here with you. So what are you still doing at those milestones? What are you doing? You said you just then, like, you left a balloon and things like that. Are you still acknowledging every milestone? Because to be open and frank, it must be hard.
Yeah. So, letting a balloon off is what we've done previously. We didn't want a funeral or to know the cremation date, to know another date in the diary. We know obviously the date that she passed away, her birthday. You could keep going. People probably know the dates of the cremation and the funeral. So you've got an extra 2 days there to remember every single bloody year. And you could keep going and going and going, I'm sure. But I don't know. Obviously it's new every year. We don't know how to grieve that she's not here. I'm gonna find a way and perhaps the more of these episodes we do, and I discuss it with other people, and they might share their ideas, and I might find something that might help me.
So we've had loads of messaging, as we've said already, and we've had a bunch of people reach out that also want to tell their story. So the future for this podcast is going to be all about grief, but not just what we spoke about, not just the childhood loss, but there's people that have messaged in that want to tell their story about a loss of their own child, but at a later point in life, a loss of siblings as well, or even a partner, a boyfriend and fiance. Like, we've had people reach out, who want to come on here and talk about their grief and to really deal with it. And it'll be really interesting to see how they've dealt with it from different points throughout your life, whatever that grief is. Because I think the thing that I've come to find is my very again, don't want to come across in the wrong way, but my position of not experiencing grief is everywhere. Everyone has grief to a degree, and there's a lot of stories that we've already seen come into our inbox, and we look forward to getting other people on this show to talk about their experiences, and how they deal with it. So I think we've had some nice comments come in.
We thought for an episode we'd like to try and close out with a previous comment from a video to hopefully spread the word. So we've got a fan of the show who hopefully would be interested in sharing their story, Jenny Smith, who said, "Perfectly spoken, guys. I have so much respect for you. Dark humour is the only thing that gets you through some of these things," Leah would say. Thank you, Jenny. So following on from that, we'd like to thank everyone for their current follows, likes, shares. We really can't express our gratitude for everyone trying to help us spread the word, build this community, and we want to hear your story. We want to help. That's what we want to do. So please don't be afraid to reach out to us, to message us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.